I'm with Max Porterfield of Callinex Mines here at the May MIF in Vancouver, Canada. Max, please tell us about Point Leamington project and why Callinex is focused on Point Leamington now.
Well, Point Leamington has been a kind of maybe a sleeper asset to the general public in our portfolio going back 8-9 years now. We acquired it in 2016 at really the bottom of the metal cycle. If you look at gold prices, for example, you're at $12.50 gold, copper is around $2, zinc was sub 70 cents. And so when we acquired it, we always viewed it really as a cheap, low-cost option on the metals market that would very quickly come in the money in a market like we're in today, where you're at a $3,300 gold, $4.50 copper, $1.20 zinc. And so with the big move in metals, it's obviously had an impact on the intrinsic value of that deposit, where it now dwarfs our assets in Manitoba, which we're more known for our rainbow discovery at our Pine Bay camp. Point Leamington, as an asset, was discovered in 1971 by Noranda, and they held it for almost 30 years within their portfolio, divested it in 98, and BHP optioned it in terms of the caliber of people that have been associated with this deposit. And then it's really sat dormant since 2004 from an exploration perspective. The only thing that's ever been done since then was used as the IPO asset for Newmarket in 2014. Very limited work that was done, 2 holes actually, and then they pivoted to Australia quite successfully. So we acquired it in 2016. We've held it within the portfolio for a time just like this, and now we're really ready to advance it on a 3-pronged approach from exploration within the deposit area, also sampling for metallurgy, and to refine the flow sheet to nail that down for the recovery of those metals, and we've strengthened the team to do that more recently. And then on a regional basis, we've got isolated targets we want to test this year to grow and discover more Point Leamingtons, because these VMS deposits occur in clusters, and Point Leamington is the only deposit to be discovered in the area.
So 20 million tons roughly at Point Leamington at an average grade of a little over 2 grams per ton gold equivalent. That's a pretty good VMS deposit. I mean, that's actually pretty impressive. A lot of these deposits are more like 5 million or 10 million tons. So 20 million tons is on the substantial side. What is the growth potential that you see there at Point Leamington, and how do you plan to show that growth?
Well, I think there's significant growth. If you look at the Point Leamington deposit, as I mentioned, the last exploration was done in 2004, and the exploration in 2004 that was done was quite successful in growing the resource, as well as hitting new mineralization along strike to the south. The deposit itself remains open at depth below the 400-meter level. We're actually getting increasing grades at depth. And if you look at the resource is broken down with a pit-constrained resource, because 18.4 million tons of the over 20 million tons is pit constrained. And so looking for a growth on that is going to be at depth, where you're getting those increasing grades of gold, of zinc at depth. And then beyond that, on a regional basis in proximity to Point Leamington, we feel we can hit another discovery, or discoveries, I should really say, near surface, which could really ramp up resource growth quite significantly very, very quickly, given how shallow these targets are.
Okay, so what's the plan of action at Point Leamington in 2025?
So in 2025, we want to complete an up to 5,000 meter exploration campaign. In that, it's going to be, again, focused on growing and testing the Point Leamington deposit in areas to grow, as I mentioned before. We want to test those regional targets, and then we want to take a robust sampling of the deposit for metallurgical drill test, metallurgical testing that'll be completed on a multi-phase approach to really refine that. And that will allow us to then very quickly leapfrog into economic studies for Point Leamington as we in tandem grow the resource base there at the deposit and the project area.
How important is the metallurgical test work that you'll be carrying out in 2025? I mean, is this the sort of thing where this test work that you'll be doing in 2025 could really add a lot of value to a potential future PEA or PFS?
Yeah, I think that it certainly can add a tremendous amount of value, because you're answering a question of the unknown, and we're really refining that. And that's what you need to do before you go into economic studies. With that, with it like anything else, if you look at our technical team, and it was really strengthened from the engineering perspective and exploration perspective historically, we've just brought on what I would argue is some of the best metallurgists in the world that have a core expertise in innovation in the recovery of precious metals, obviously gold and silver, and they've got a track record with Barrick and numerous others on a commercial scale on really refining those flow sheets. So we're really excited to have them doing the work with us and being a part of our team as we advance exploration at Point Leamington here in 2025.
Okay. And, investors always like timelines. Timelines are tricky, though, but what are the rough timelines that you expect to achieve some milestones at Point Leamington in 2025?
I believe that we're going to be able to kick off exploration in the coming months there. And then I think that with that being said, it'll be a multi-phase approach in terms of the metallurgy. Obviously, we need to collect those samples as we conduct exploration in the field this season. And then the timelines for phase one will be about 2 to 3 months past then. So I think we're going to have a lot of news this summer, late summer into the fall, that will set us up for a really, really exciting 2026 as well, beyond 2025 work.
Okay, so what are the key questions that we're going to be answering at Callinex at Point Leamington in 2025? Like, what are the key questions that shareholders should keep on their minds? Like, we need to know the answers to this, this, and this.
What is the potential for Point Leamington to get significantly larger beyond the 20 million tons today? What are the nail down the recoveries of the metals? As I mentioned, that's going to be critical as you advance from economics. And can they hit another discovery in proximity to that to grow scale well beyond the 20 million tons at Point Leamington as we grow the deposit itself? For Point Leamington, the potential for growing the deposit is significant there. But beyond that, hitting another near surface deposit, as opposed to growing the resource at depth at Point Leamington alone, is going to be another, I think, key check mark on growing the volume of material at that site.
A new discovery of a new VMS deposit on the property package would be very good news.
Yeah.
Okay, so what studies do you have to do? Are you going to be doing an IP survey? Are you going to be doing gravity, magnetics to help identify these potential new deposits?
So in terms of how we've already isolated the targets, we have proprietary information for 2,400 line kilometers of airborne data already, which is actually how Point Leamington was discovered, was an airborne survey that was flown in 1967 by Phelps Dodge. So we already have that data. Those targets that are isolated are in the pedigree of rocks that would host a deposit like Point Leamington, which is obviously key. What we're going to be doing this summer is going to be ground truthing those and refining that in terms of those regional targets. And at the same time, we're re-reviewing historic borehole EM data on the Point Leamington deposit, which will aid on vectoring to grow the resource base at Point Leamington itself.
And what's going to be happening at Manitoba in 2025?
In Manitoba, we're very much in the permitting side of the equation. We are in the advanced exploration permitting of the Rainbow and Pine Bay deposits. The advanced exploration permit is really the halfway point in the permitting process for permitting a deposit in Canada. Once you get your advanced exploration permit, which allows you to ramp down to the deposit, take a bulk sample, conduct underground exploration, as well as for the bulk sample being for metallurgical work, which is, again, our new team members will be assisting in that, will then lead us into a position to submit at some point in the future for our environmental license. And it's kind of the halfway. Once you receive the AEP, the next step would be for your full-blown environmental license. So to have that in the pipeline now is a great time while we're doing the work in Newfoundland, given everything that we've discussed so far.
Okay, great. And then final question, tell us about the Callinex share structure, who some of the major shareholders are, how many shares do you own, and how much cash does the company have in the treasury, and what kind of cash will you need to advance Point Leamington in 2025?
So in terms of the structure of the company, there's 19 million shares outstanding. I myself own over 1 million shares, and those are shares that I've accumulated in the open market, predominantly over since I've been at the company. I've been at the company now 11 years. And then beyond that, we've got some strong institutional owners of the company like McKinsey, like 1832 Asset Management. No debt on the balance sheet. In terms of the treasury is down below $500,000 today. In terms of work commitments over 2025, you're looking at a capital raise between $2.5 to $3 million.
Max Porterfield, Callinex Mines, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.